Hello and welcome back to the Anest Iwata Refinish YouTube channel. And today we're going to be looking in greater detail the new WS Primer filler gun. What we're going to show you today is you can get, using this gun and its technology, a flatter finish even on filler primers. Ordinarily in the past, when using filler primer guns, you'll see a bit of structure and peel that was accepted in the past. You had to sand that back to achieve the flat finish so you could apply your substrates, base coats and clear coats on top of that. What we're going to show you now is with our latest technology that we can get it flatter. This saves you on material costs and labour costs. This means it takes less time to sand it, and also you're going to use less abrasives to do it. We'll also show you how we achieved that with our technology. So without further ado, let's get in the booth and let's show you what it's capable of doing. As you can see, we have a bonnet that's been cut in half. The first half we're going to spray using WS Primer High Build, and then immediately after we're going to spray this side using another well-known gun in the market, which is used for High Build Primer. As it's wet, then you'll be able to see the difference in structure, how flat the WS Primer is compared to other guns on the market, and then later on in the video we'll show you how that has an effect in your productivity, flatting, how much time in flatting, how much abrasives is used to get that surface flat, and this will show you how WS Primer gets that flatness straight off the gun, saving you time and money. So just before we start to spray these two sides of the hood, the bonnet, I'm going to do a spray out on the wall just to show you the pattern shapes and how good the pattern shape is on the WS Primer filler primer gun. As you can see from the bonnet, the hood, both sides have got a bit of filler work. That will also replicate that it's a filler job, so you can see the coverage. We're also going to do some micron builds on this, so we're going to measure the micron build because this is a plain metal bonnet, so no paint on this, so it gives us a reading so we can see that we are in tolerance on the micron builds. So we now spread out the two patterns. First one is the WS Primer, and the second one is another gun that's in the market generally. As you can see from this one over here, it's starting to dry, very centrally wet, very short, a lot of material in the middle of the pattern. This, from an application point of view, means the application in your overlap is very, very critical because you've only got a small area to work with. If you don't quite get those overlaps quite right, you can have an application problem. It could be too wet or too dry. And in alternative, this could actually give you some issues in some cases, like maybe a bit of boil, bit of popping because of the overload. From the Anest Iwata pattern on the WS Primer, nice and even all the way across the pattern. It's drying nice and even from top to bottom, no center wetness, nice and full, nice and soft. This means from an application point of view, if you don't quite get your overlap quite right, because the pattern is nice and flat and even, the back of the pattern will keep on working for you and will keep on filling those imperfections as you go along, which will reduce any kind of issues regarding popping or overload, but also give you a nice application and nice and flat and very consistent application. So we're now going to spray the two sides of the hood. The first side we're going to spray using the WS Primer filler gun. The nozzle size we're going to be using today is a 1.6, and the pressure setting is going to be 1.8 bar. Depending on which size of repair you do, you can actually reduce those pressures if you want to. You're not set in stone to 1.8 bar or 2 bar. The WS Primer with split nozzle technology allows you to have a bigger window of pressure. So if you bring those pressures down even lower, it will still atomize really, really well because of the split nozzle technology. So the WS Primer has that bigger window and performance when you come to setting your pressures. We're also going to measure the micron builds. Because this is a brand new steel panel, it's reading 0. So we'll spray the two sides of the hood, and then we'll measure them again once we've finished, and we'll make sure that we're in tolerance when the paint company says what that micron build needs to be after 2 coats of primer. We've just done another exercise just to try and highlight the difference in the atomization and the laydown, to try and show you a bit more of the difference in the structure. So we have the other manufacturer, which is used in the market generally, and we have the new WS Primer filler gun. Looking at the two, a considerable difference in the actual laydown, and also one has got a considerable more amount of structure, which is the other manufacturer, compared to the WS Primer. The WS Primer is effectively looking more like a wet on wet application. The split nozzle technology has really smashed it up, really laid it down really flat, and this will mean that when it comes to the flatting process, it'll take half the time and also reduce the amount of abrasives needed to be used. So this just highlights again in greater detail the difference between high atomization split nozzle technology and just general atomization that's been widely used out in the market for the application of filler primers. So both sides of the hood now completed, flashed and dried. Before we take these outside and do the sanding test, earlier on we took a micron reading, we set it to 0, placed it on, and because it's burst steel originally, we got a 0 reading. So now setting it again to 0, see what we get. So between 65, 66, so even application across the hood. The micron build recommendation was between 50 and 70, so we're right in the middle of where we need to be. If I check over here, so I'm getting a difference there between 87 and 55. So a bit of a difference there. Could be down to because the patterns are a lot more stubby and center wet. The application might be a little bit inconsistent, where with the WS Primer, even application, if you're not quite getting the overlap quite right, the back of the pattern will fill in those imperfections and give you a nice, even, consistent application and lay down of the primers. So where we need to be on our micron build, so ticked another box. We'll now go outside, get these guide coated up, and we'll give them a sanding test. So we've now taken the two sides of the hood, the bonnet out the booth. As you saw, we've guide coated these ready for sanding. I'm going to sand both of these sides of the bonnet using a 500 disc. People might say that's a bit of a low grade for sanding a bonnet when it's got filler primer. I understand that, but what I wanted to do is I want to sand it using this disc to see how long it takes to cut back any surface tension or structure or peel on that bonnet. And also, I also want to see whether or not I have to use more discs to actually get the finish that I'm looking for. We'll time it to see how long it takes to do each one, and then we'll look at the results after we're finished. So we finished the preparation part of the exercise. We've now brought the parts of the bonnets back into the booth under the better lighting. I've sprue wiped these off so as if they were ready to be painted. Looking at the two halves, the WS Primer, nice and flat, nice and easy. No real work at all in sanding that whatsoever. I actually used a 500 disc on both sides. Looking at the other spray gun side, I can still see parts where I could have sanded it a lot more, a lot longer. Possibly, thinking about it, would probably drop a abrasive side on that particular application down to a 400, or maybe even a 320. Some people might say, well, that's acceptable, it's high build. Yes, okay. But if you sand that, use a 320, you've still got to sand it with a 500 to finish it off, because you can't put your base coat over a 320, you'd see the scratch marks. So looking at the two, the actual sanding time for that half on the Iwata, on the WS Primer side, was 1 minute 40 seconds. On this side, it was nearly 4 minutes, a lot longer, nearly more than double. Amount of discs that I used on the WS Primer, I used 1 disc on this and I used 2 discs on this side. Now don't forget, these are only halves of bonnets. So on this side, the other spray gun side, I would have used arguably maybe 4 abrasives, 4 discs, and maybe up to 8 minutes worth of sanding, and still probably need a bit more sanding as well on top of that. So what that shows you is using the WS Primer gun for your application of high builds saves you labour costs and also saves you material costs. So it's false economy to be buying a spray gun, a cheap spray gun, to apply your high build, because you've got to spend longer sanding it. And also, don't be using an old clear coat. Everyone thinks, oh, well, a clear coat gun will do it. Actually, no, it doesn't. A clear coat gun is for clear coat. So you can still get issues using a clear coat gun for your high build primers. So it always makes sense to get the best possible spray gun for the application of high build primers. And in particular, the best gun for the application is the WS Primer, which has the split nozzle technology. The serrations on the nozzles will atomize it that much better and give you a flatter application, will take out the structure and give you that far flatter surface tension. So overall, that brings the video to a close. I hope you've seen something that interests you to take further, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon on the Anest Iwata YouTube channel.
Active with newest technology, Anest Iwata.